This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Many years ago, GSRC began its coverage of the Spec Racer Ford with the big grid race here at Road America. Hence, why it's so fitting for us to kick off the new season at this historic American circuit. And while most of the drivers will be plenty familiar with it, it'll be no easy feat to work your way to the front and compete for the win. We'll see who starts things off with a victory as we get ready to watch round one of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlocker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. With one of the longest lap lengths on the iRacing service, there's a lot to go over here at Road America, so why don't we start by diving in for a closer look at the track. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. You get a little bit of a better look at the track itself. But as always, we want to remind you that the Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Sim Stickers. Whether it's button boxes, steering wheels, or keyboards, they have you covered. And now, if you use the promo code GSRC10 when purchasing, you get 10% off of all orders for the whole season. You can find out more at simstickers.co.uk. Let's take a look as well at the championship from last season before we get started with this one. David Gaspers absolutely trounced the field. Every race that he arrived at, he won. Daniel Sadro was a distant second, but still within that 100 points at the end of the season. Jerry McAreevy, Steve Elson, and Miroslav Juracek round out the top 5. Of course, we have a Spec 2 season that we covered last season as well. Steph, how's that?
Well, Hugh Haycox won that one, Joe, 21 points ahead of his main rival, Bob Kern. Edward Doherty, he didn't have the best back half of the season, but he really made it count in that last race. However, only 31 points in third place there behind. Dominic Bureau, fourth place, already a big bit of a gap there, 67 points. He was behind, looking for a better season this time around, with Hugh Haycox being now in the Spec 1 class. And then Nico Schuck, a long-time leader in the first few races of last season, he in the end ended up 5th place, 86 points behind Hugh Haycox.
Now, if you've never watched the Weekend Warriors before, let's give you a few race details for today. As we mentioned, we are in round 1 of 2020 season 1. And they've got open setups on these cars, even though there's not too much that you can tweak. They've got a fuel limit, though. They don't have the fuel tank that they have on the real thing, which means this 40-minute race will have at least one pit stop. And they ration the points instead of doing the strict points giveaway to the same positions every race. So at last place, we'll always get 25 points no matter what. They do have penalty points for incidents. Each 10 incident, they lose 3 points in the championship. And they have a free car if they get too much damage that they can duck into the pits and take themselves. As always, we want to remind you that you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. It's very easy. All you got to do is go to the big red button that says subscribe, and you'll catch all the action here on IESN. And don't forget to subscribe over at the Global Sim Racing channel as well, because we're going to do a giveaway over there. If you are subscribed either this month or even before December, we'll give away a prize to 2 people around Christmas time. Essentially, we'll be doing the random draw where one from before and one from after will each get to choose their own item from our merchandise store for free, and we'll ship that to you. As we watch qualifying go here, it's a long lap. We were talking about it, Steph, and a lot of corners to go around that these drivers have to get this lap in.
Yeah, it's so many corners. Some a little bit marked wrong, like that connection between turn 1 and 2. That's technically marked as turn 2, even though it's not a turn. Just weird numbers are numbers, I guess. But yeah, the main real talking point here at Road America will most definitely be the 2 long straights. Technically 3 long straights we have with the kink as well, since that is purely flat out in these slow cars with quite a lot of downforce that you don't always think about. Yes, you're gonna get some of your time through the little bit of a twisty section between turn 5 and the carousel, but really it's all gonna come down to how well you can set up your car to accommodate for the draft effect.
Riding on board with Ryan Walker right now, sits in 5th. Speaking of that draft effect, right now he's towing along Michael Dobeck behind him. We've seen this a lot in qualifying in this series, that drivers try to use that draft to get themselves a little bit higher up. I have to imagine this track very much so here, Steph. It'll be important to qualify well so that you can be in that front pack.
Well, and the best to do that qualifying right now is David Gaspers. He is right now, what is that, 6/10, nearly 6/10 ahead, 0.518 ahead of Hugh Haycox right now, as Michael Dobeck goes to the line with a, what is that going to be, a 2:34.0 that apparently didn't count for him.
Looks like he must have had an off track somewhere along the way. Brett Holton currently on the outside of the front row. He just went faster than Hugh Haycox, who is now on the Spec 1 field. And Hugh, sitting in 3rd, just came across the line, but also didn't get that lap to count. Wayne Palmer going to round out those front 2 rows.
By the way, Michael Dobeck, he's sitting right now in 24th, and with those 9/10ths that he would have gained from that last lap with a 2:34.03, I think that would have been, he would have jumped up all the way to 10th, putting Stevie Ray with his number 11 down to 11th place.
Oh, and Daniel Sadro now finds his way into 2nd. So that's going to bump Holton into 3rd. Sadra's actually right with Gaspers out on the track. Gave him a little bit of a pull last lap there, and that unfortunately didn't count for Gaspers, so he's going to come around again. You see the number 1 on our multi-time champion getting another nice little tow down the Moraine sweep. And he's going to look to the inside and go on by Sadro by the time they hit turn 5. This is a big field here today, even though it's 2+ minutes, in fact, 2.5 minutes for a lap. I have to imagine with, gosh, nearly 50 cars here, Steph, traffic's got to be a bit of an issue.
Well, right now the times are rather close, with 2:38 being right now the slowest time that is legitimate. So yeah, it's 5 seconds up to Gaspers. Calculating that up, I don't think there will be much of trouble worth speaking traffic-wise. But can I just mention that very awesome-looking paint of David Gaspers?
Yep, he's got a little bit of a new scheme on the car. In fact, a lot of drivers have painted new schemes as they've introduced some new abilities here with the painting, adding chrome and matte to there. He talked about the difference in times. There's 3 seconds from first to 40th out here over a 2.5-minute lap. That's a very small margin for such a large field. Watching McAreevy now, currently is in 8th. Oh, as he makes a little contact with Bob Kern in the process, coming down into the hurry down. So he's going to back off. Both of them might have had their laps discounted because of that contact. So we talked about the penalty points that they have to worry about here. It's you saw on the screen that they lose 10 for every 3 incidents. For those not familiar with iRacing, the incidents are essentially if they have an off track, if they make contact with another car or the wall, or if they have a spin, that is considered a certain number of incidents depending on which one you do. And those can rack up quickly, especially if you make a lot of contact with other cars, as that's the most at 4 incidents just for one of those.
And sorry,
Yes.
David Gaspers just went faster with Daniel Sadro. David Gaspers now to a 32.9, where Daniel Sadro went to a 33.1. And I just had a very quick calculation. Those 3 seconds that they lose right now to David Gaspers, that is about 2/100th of a second that they lose per second driven.
That is wild as we watch Sadro continue now to try and pull on Gaspers. I'm actually kind of surprised these two don't team up more or become teammates out there, considering how quick they both are, and they've been rivals for a number of seasons. See Gaspers giving a little bit of a bump draft to try and speed up without causing a 0x, which will discount your lap here. So he's trying to give him a little bit of time out on that lap as they're being followed by Zach LeVay, who's currently down in 19th. He's hooked up with the right people to try and find some time. He's about 1.7 seconds off of both of them.
Yeah, Brett Holden right now in 3rd place. I don't think that's a name we have said very often this high up. So the number 8 most definitely looking rather strong here on this draft track. Only having 2 laps counted on 5 tries. So most definitely getting his time's worth right now. Yuhei Cox, he's in 4th place, 33.7, so already 8/10 down from David Gaspers. And Wayne Palmer, that's a Spec 2 driver in 5th place.
Seeing a few new faces here, actually. We've got Jay William Smith. I don't think we've seen him run in here. If we have, it's been quite a while. Tim Van Dormelen also joining us. He's sitting in 34th currently. There you see Smith down in pit lane at the moment. Yuri Cox, I'm not sure that he's raced here in recent seasons. He's the number 286, and he's actually going to end his qualifying with only a minute left and now trundling down pit lane. This is not a pit lane you want to visit more than once in this expected one-stop race here, Steph.
Yeah, pit stops are probably gonna take somewhere around 40 seconds, just because the pit lane is this long, which means you're gonna lose quite a lot of time, but 38 seconds or so in the pit lane, maybe even more. I honestly always forget how long this really is, as David Gaspers also bought his lap, went into pit lane to test that at least once, because he didn't have any practice up to this point. Daniel Sadro still sitting in 2nd place, but this time around it was another fast lap for him. He put out about 5/100ths of a second there, still though not enough for David Gaspers.
And as much as importance as we've been placing on qualifying, this isn't a track where track position is that critical. They're going to be swapping around a lot. You'll see that with the draft as we now watch Ian Haycox. This is the older of the 2 Haycoxes that is coming up to cross the line. Let's see if he can improve on that 26th spot. This is well far down for him. He's only had 1 lap count until now. A 2:34.5 is enough to bump him up to 15th. A little bit better, but still kind of unusual for his typical pace. Drivers now crossing the line with the checkered flag out, so nobody is able to start a new lap. These are all drivers who are wrapping things up. Trying to see who's going to be the next to cross the line here. Looks like Antonio Reese, who sits in 8th. He's got a 2:33.9 as his quickest in that number 77 machine. Can he improve? Nope. Looks like that lap does not count.
Paul Jackson behind him, we saw that there took a little bit of a lefty after the righty, which totally isn't the right way to go there. So he hit the grass and also was done with his qualifying. Kenneth Bately now going over the line with a 36.0, 4 tenths faster for him. Puts him into... that was a little bit too fast there. I don't see him anymore.
We've got Paul Jackson in the number 249. He does not improve, so he stays in 38th position. We're watching Kurt Nunez in 24th. And is he giving some help here? Looks like he is. He does go quicker, 2:34.5, and that actually jumps him up to 17th with that lap.
By the way, it was 42nd for Bately there, so there you go. Just a little update on that. Mats Joblom, he is coming over the line, but that's a current lap of 28 seconds, so that can't be right.
Looks like a 2:40.5, so he did go a little bit quicker, and doesn't improve his position, though. As we see Daniel Sadro, even though he had another lap that he could take, he wasn't happy with it, so he's going to come in. Believe Kellen Rhodes also coming across the line. He's in 32nd position. His quickest is a 2:35.2. Let's see what he's got underneath. A 2:34.9. That's a couple tenths quicker, and that jumps him up to 29th position.
3 places gained there. Next car over the line will not be Tony Shook. It will actually be Ian Haycox. Let's see if he is on a faster lap. Does look a little bit slow coming into the last turn.
I think he's already taken his last lap. Yeah, he's taken the checkered flag. So that's going to be it. That's everybody through. Nobody else can set a quick time here today.
Well, Chris Murakami is coming across the start-finish line, so I don't know if he...
Well, if Ian's already crossed it, then nobody behind him would be able to. So these are all drivers that have already finished, I believe. So there we go. That is the end of the field. Let's go through our starting order of more than 50 cars. It is David Gaspers on the pole with Daniel Sadro starting next to him. Chris Murakami, very good qualifying, up to 3rd. Usually we see him a little bit more in the mid-pack. Brett Holton will be starting in 4th position with Hugh Haycox qualifying P5. He's continued to improve race after race. Wayne Palmer, the first of our Spec 2 racers. Wade tell them is to look at the number, 200 and above will be Spec 2 drivers. Palmer on the pole there in 6th. Ryan Walker starts 7th today. Then you've got Antonio Reese, who was not able to improve on his final lap. He stays 8th position. Jerry McAreevy, who at one point was on the pole, falls all the way to 9th. And David Garrido Sanchez is in 10th.
Fred Design, a French driver, will be your first car outside of the top 10 in 11th place. The 11th car is sitting in 12th place, driven by the always awesome Stevie Ray Armfugly. That's your second place Spec 2 driver, the 247, sits in 13th. 14th went to Billy Bob Wright. Dominic Bureau, 3rd place in the Spec 2 championship right now. 15th goes to him. Ramon Regalado, 16th. Kurt Nunes in 17th. Ian Haycox, very disappointing qualifying for him, only sitting in 18th place. Nick Carty, 90th, went to him, and a 119 of Samuel Dick sits in 20th.
Another new face, Greg Stefani, starting 21st with Edward Doherty down in 22nd. Adam Bradshaw starts P23, followed by Zach LeVay in the 24th position. Another of our Spec 2 drivers starting 25th. That's Tony Schuch. Michael Dobeck will be starting 26th. And then the following row has Michael Shaw to the inside in P27. Larry McLeod starts 28th, and Kellen Rhodes, with his improvement, jumps up to 29th. Tom Gradwell rounds out your top 30.
Good thing that we have a full pace lap here ahead, because it's a lot of cars that we have to go through. Geoff Jacobson, the number 40 car, sits in 31st. Yuri Cox, 32nd, went to him. In row number 17, it's Paulo Brem and Tim van Dornmark in 34th. Richard Franco, 35th. Bob Kern, very low down for him, only a 36th place. So look at him for gaining a lot of positions in this race. Emil Orsa, 37th. Paul Jackson gonna take 38th on the grid. Niels Sendkowski in 39th. And Ian Wilson will be running out your top 40 drivers.
PJ Gowdy will be 41st here on the field, and these are some of the last cars to get a time in. Kenneth Batley in 42nd with Jeff Cantor in 43rd. Then you've got Richard Gordakowski, starting 44th, and Mark Gehan in 45th. Mentioned another new face, Jay William Smith, will be starting P46. He'll be followed by Sean Fleming in 47th position. Last two to put a time in, Matt Solblum in 48th and Ian Malone 49th. Checking to see if Boss Slob is here. And I do not see him in the session, so not sure that he's going to start the race. Francesco Bernardo will, and Jim McGill is in the session. I do not see him on the grid quite yet. That still gives us 50 cars at least out here on the track. As you can see, they've already started on their way following the pace car down through the first corner.
As I like to say, 50 cars, that gives you a lot of potential for many wrecks, which obviously I don't think will happen here because these drivers normally are very disciplined about how and when they can make moves.
And that's one thing that we can't stress enough. It tends to be, it's becoming something of a well-known factor here on iRacing that the spec racer Ford community is not only very welcoming, but generally they're pretty pleasant to deal with. You don't see too many fights in general in this group, and a lot of times drivers try to be considerate and fair as possible with each other when they race. So if you're looking for a good friendly group to hop into, I would highly recommend checking out those spec racers as they come down through into the Turn 5. This is definitely going to be one of the more popular passing spots, but it can be a little bit hairy on the first lap coming into here, especially with that downhill braking.
Yeah, and especially with a lot of cars that most definitely will try to gain some positions on quite some heavy drafting that will take place. But I actually do think that turn 1 will be much more different than that fifth turn that we just went through. Because the turn 1, it is sort of a weird turn for these cars. You're still sort of braking while turning. And if you're 2-3 wide, that can cause much different problems than that fifth turn where you're normally no longer on the brakes when you turn in.
Now down through the hurried downs, another spot with a little bit of elevation change. You can see as it then flattens out into the braking zone, car compressing slightly. And then you've got a sharp left-hander leading into the long carousel. This is a car that doesn't like to be off throttle while turning, but what does it handle like around this corner?
Interesting, to say the least. No, you really have to match that off throttle oversteer, with that turning. I don't know. The best way I've found is to never really be fully off throttle, but be off throttle enough so that the engine doesn't really take any power from you anymore. So you really have to balance this one. What is a little bit more dangerous than the carousel is actually the kink. If you have to sort of lift or brake a little bit, which can happen if you're side by side through that turn. And if you really have to do that and you can't catch your car anymore from a sudden oversteer, then you're going to find yourself very fast in those very narrow barriers.
You can see how there's just no room on either side down through the Kettle Bottoms into Canada Corner. Finally, they start to come out into the open here, up and over Bill Mitchell Bend, which is going to be a scary part of this circuit. But right now at pace speed, nice, nice and easy to go too wide as we get ready to start the race. 40 minutes of racing here in the opening round of the Weekend Warriors. And it's going to be David Gaspers who leads the way, waiting for that pace car to peel in. Car is in. Gaspers holds up. He doesn't want anybody to get too great of a run. I think he's starting to accelerate away now. Indeed, green flag is out. And it looks like the top drivers immediately getting single file. Little bit of a jump there from Hugh Haycox, who gets a good run on Brett Holton, and he moves himself into fourth. Otherwise, it's quite orderly up at the front. You can see everybody kind of jockeying in the back, trying to sort themselves out. Coming down to turn one, how are we going to do through here? Most everybody going single file through that corner. In fact, you have to go all the way back into 25th and beyond before you get some side-by-side battles.
Yeah, you're saying it's still a lot of side-by-side down there in the midst of this field, but pretty much your top 15 or so drivers are single file already.
As they work their way down the moraine sweep between Gaspers and Sadro, it's very close, but Sadro's not looking at passing. He's just going to give a little bit of a bump draft down into the fifth turn. Too much of a bump for Chris Murakami. Flies back onto the track, but I think most everybody is able to get around him. The car gets rolling, but he is severely damaged as he has some more contact with what looks like Doherty.
Yeah, Doherty keeps his car together there, but yeah, Murakami very damaged. He's now on the outside and just spins in front of a pack. Ooh, that could have been way more costly than actually was there in the very end. You can see Murakami still trying to recover his car. Obviously, that did put quite the gap now between the top two and Hugh Haycox.
I'm amazed that, one car just clipped him as he went across. That was Neil Santowski. Otherwise, he managed to slide through one of the few gaps in the field. As we come back to the front, watching Gaspers and Sadro work their way around. Looks like we lost Mark Gehan in that as well on that first lap. But quite a gap being pulled between Sadro and Hugh Haycox. Almost 3 seconds between them now. Brett Holton is still working to fight with him and settle out that third spot, but he's going to go way too deep into Canada corner, and he's going to slide back in to McAreevy. One more car spinning behind him. Looks like that's Aaron Vagley. So both of them losing lots of positions. Let's take a look at this incident one more time. This was Holton just sending it in way too far into the corner. Completely blew the braking.
Yeah, and he was still braking when he lost the car, so that pretty much tells you the story of what happened. Just that off-throttle oversteer comes into play and sends him around because he was still braking there.
This is Murakami's incident. That was Hugh Haycox that went into the back of him and shoved him to the inside wall. Great heads up by everybody behind for giving him space.
And there was just a spin for 6th place. Then was Stevie Ray in turn 1. He spins it around, I think, all on his own. So, yeah, Stevie Ray, after a great drive up to 6th place, spins it himself.
You see the full incident for the 01 when he went across the track as we now come back live. You can see it's still Gaspers in front of Sadro. McAreevy now in third, just with Hugh Haycox. They're starting to break away behind them. Change of position. Oh, and a big slide from Antonio Reese as he tried to make a huge move past Walker and Desai. Looks like they managed to come out of that one in one piece, but scary moments there for Antonio.
Yeah, most definitely Antonio Reese with quite a slide there. Somehow able to catch that, and somehow they're able to keep it 3 wide very tightly there. So, Michael Dobek just spun in behind, going into the hurry downs. Single car incident after he got overtaken by Ian Haycox.
Yeah, just maybe a little bit too much curb. Let's watch here on the replay.
Yeah, I think it looked that way. I'm not really being able to see it right there, but he is very far to the inside, so I would guess that he just took way too much curb there for some good.
This will give us a better angle here. Oh, yeah, wow, he just cut the course there. So getting a little greedy, and he paid for it. Didn't hit anything, but still positions lost. They're going to be a little bit of a pain for him to try and make back. These are our 2 leaders still close together, and now 4.5 seconds ahead of Jerry McAreevy at this point. They are absolutely gapping the field. And I'm surprised to see them make this much of a gap this early. But these two know the game here, Steph. This is actually great for them to be able to pull away from everybody else.
Yeah, everyone behind is making the mistakes while they try to catch up with them. So the battle for fifth, they're also on screen going up quite nicely. Fred Desai probably now going to get overtaken by Ryan Walker. The Scotsman doing it around the right side of Fred Desai. Billy Bob Wright looking in behind, popcorn position for that fight. Goes a little bit wide, that opens the door to Antonio Rees. Will he try to take it into turn 2? Most definitely looks to the right side. The side's better of it though.
By the way, don't need to go to... Oh! Walker with a big mistake in turn 3. Slides off the course. Has to wait for everybody to go by. He's got no opening here. Oh, this is a lot of cars that he's got to wait patiently to let through. And I was just about to say that Sadro had gotten ahead of Gaspers, and before I could even get it out, Gaspers is back ahead of Sadro. So replay here on Walker. Boy, he zipped off quickly. Oh, you know what? He counter-steered, and it looked like the car caught when he didn't want it to.
Sure did look like they're just not what you want to see. You hate to see it, you hate to feel it, but that's just sometimes how racing goes.
Wow, a lot of issues for single cars early on. Looks like Tim Van Dormelen, off at turn 5. Don't need a replay on that. Had a little bit of contact in the process as he started to spin. That was, I think that was Neil Santowski yet again who had that contact. Meanwhile, we continue to watch this battle on screen. This is for, I believe, what we're seeing for 5th and 6th position. Riding on board with Rees, sitting 7th in line. Few cars all together down deep into Canada corner. Fred Desai on Antonio Rees coming around the outside. Doesn't quite work out though. Just behind them, don't forget Kurt Nunez in the mix. He showed up to the big grid race a week ago, and now he's trying his hand at a full season. As they come onto the front stretch, let's see if anybody can get a nice draft on their way up to turn 1. Billy Bob Wright has pulled well away from them up there in 5th place, so I'm not sure that he's going to be caught.
Edward Doherty leading the train for 13th place, now going to get overtaken by Zachary LeVay in the very black car. There, Samuel Dick also looking and doing the same thing with a head of steam. He's coming up to that. You can see him in the yellow car in behind. The side's better if it does a little bit of a lift there, and with that, Zachary LeVay now in 9th place. Very bad run for him though, and tracks everybody up behind.
Yeah, interesting that there were many in that group that had a run there. Nobody really willing to try and take it down into turn 3. I think they're all waiting for this spot right here on the Moraine sweep. Samuel Dick going to go to the inside of Doherty as he gets a nice little bit of draft. And behind them, are we going to see a 3 wide from Bureau? He's got the pace. No, instead they might go 3 wide. Oh, boxes him in. Doherty, clever move there on Samuel Dick to keep him
up ahead of spin.
Behind LeVay. Yeah, that is Billy Bob Wright, who is slow on the course, but he's off the racing line. Now he gets up to speed, and it is Doherty who comes out with a 9th spot. LeVay down to 10th. Samuel Dick stays in 11th.
Yeah, good catch there by Billy Bob Wright. I thought he's going to come back onto the track again, but he held it together there. Can we see it on the replay? Just nice, nearly 90-degree entry into that corner and saves it and keeps it ahead. Now in 10th place, or 9th place, sorry. Once again, he has a big slide there.
I almost wonder if there was a little ghost contact. From that angle, it was a little weird that he suddenly slid like he did. I think Tom Gradwell had an issue out of turn 8. He gets it going once again, but he's well down the order at this point. We stay on this battle for what is 9th place here with, actually 8th place now. Billy Bob Wright joining the group, having fallen back from the second pack there. They fall their way down in elevation to one of the lowest points on the track in Canada Corner. Doherty is going to go for it. He gets the inside into this 90-degree right, but he doesn't quite get fully past him. It's going to be a drag race up to Bill Mitchell Bend.
Yeah, Ramon Regalado in behind us, pretty much the same thing on his competitor. That's a little bit of touch, that's sideways for Doherty. They come together, keep it all together though. So Billy Bob right now, once again, one position down, keeps it all together. Edward Doherty now in 8th place.
Wow, hard racing between them. We're barely
in behind though, big wreck just before the last turn.
Bradshaw involved with it looks like.
That all
started. A few others.
Paolo Brem, Wayne Palmer, and Eric Fergally, 3 wide started all of that. There we can see them.
It's hard enough doing Bill Mitchell Bend 2 wide. 3 wide is asking for trouble. Brem was to the inside. And it looks like Vaguely was the one to the outside. Wayne Palmer also getting stuck in it.
He was in the middle there. He was already side by side with Paolo Brem, and the slow Wayne Palmer calls the 3 wide, and I think Paolo Brem didn't realize that. Both of them just squeezed the hell there out of Fergally.
Poor Adam Bradshaw wound up on his lid from that, so he had to take a tow. He'll still have his spare car, of course. Speaking of which, with the pits, I think the pit window should be open soon-ish, if it's not already open now. This is a very thirsty track. So we come back to our leaders who have continued to swap around a little bit. The only reason we haven't been focusing on lead changes here is because this is pretty normal. This is these two most likely just working together at this point.
Yeah, it does seem so. Daniel Sadro saving some fuel behind David Gaspers. We don't know really how much fuel he is saving. You can save quite a bit, but obviously it's not going to be enough for saving a full lap behind someone riding like this. So Daniel Sadro most definitely looking now to overtake David Gaspers to the inside. He goes. Let's see if he can make it stick through Canada Corner. And yep, sure enough, Daniel Sadro once again back to the lead.
Ooh, we're going to see a little bit of an over-under here. Gaspers wants another go at it. Maybe they aren't working together. They're going to go side by side through Bill Mitchell Bend. And Gaspers comes out the better for it, carrying that speed the long way around. And maybe we do need to watch this, because I thought that they would be a little bit more calm up here.
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if they can continue with this and still run away with the lead. That's just how much faster they are than anyone else in this field. This time around, they did a 34.9. Both of them did. Gary McReevy and Hugh Haycox in behind with a 34.6. So they were only 0.3 slower than anyone else behind them.
Sadro retakes the lead over Gaspers. Still 6 seconds back here to this battle that we're watching on screen between McReevy and Hugh Haycox. They themselves have pulled about 4.5 seconds down to Antonio Reese as they come out of turn 3. A little bit wide for Hugh Haycox, and that hurts his exit as we see Stevie Ray do his traditional early stop.
Which means pit window is officially open.
Which is sad for all those drivers that got involved in those wrecks a little bit ago, because they might not be able to make it to the end on one stop, which is certainly going to hurt them.
By the way,
2 leaders out of turn 5.
Even though we saw those wrecks in that battle pack, the battle still is wide open for that 9th place right now. Billy Bob Wright going to overtake back Samuel Dick, all for 8th place actually. Edward Doherty loses 10th place to Greg Stefani or Darcy.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but Tony Schuch, who was at the tail of that train, just lost it. You can see him getting it going in that 246. This was all his own doing. Just a little bit too much speed into there and can't hold the rear. Round she goes. Ooh, great avoidance by those behind him. He was a little bit far up there in the terms of the Spec 2 race, but right now the leader in that is Dominique Bureau, who is in that big pack that we were watching. The number 208 sits in 13th. So that actually split things up a little bit. You can see they've got that big pack, but Billy Bob Wright and Samuel Dick have pulled away from Edward Doherty. There's the gap on screen. 94 has got to start hustling, but he might have a little bit of an attack because here comes Zach LeVay in that dark-colored car. Down to the inside of Canada corner. Can't quite get to the inside of Doherty. In fact, a little bit of an over-under for Greg Stefani, who's going to try and take this right back. He's going to be brave and just about pinches off Zach LeVay down through Bill Mitchell Bend.
By the way, Greg Stefani, he is in a 750 and he has enough iRacing to qualify for a Spec 2 class, so I'm pretty sure that Greg Stefani is right now our leader in Spec 2. As Kurt Nunes into pit lane he goes.
So another taker up towards the front of the pack. Little bit of damage on Kurt's car. Probably see him take that free repair since aerodynamics are so important here at this quick track. The Californian looking for a stall, finding it and hitting it nicely.
Yeah, here comes Kurt into pit lane, into the pit box he goes. Most definitely looking for a quick stop from his crew.
Another change for the lead. Sadro ahead of Gaspers down into turn 5. He's got the inside. As Gasper's going to try and pull it back underneath him. Well, he disappears for a moment on my screen. Connection not the greatest for the number 1, but he is going to get back through before turn 6.
Yeah, David Gaspers and Daniel Sadro still going at it, and they are continuing to push that lead out down to Gary McReevy. It's now 7 seconds to that third place driver.
Amazing that they can run this pace while still fighting one another. Just tells you how much Sadro has improved as the seasons have gone by. McAreevy there in third spot, trying to figure out who is going to take the last step on the podium. We're almost halfway through this race. Are we going to see any takers this time by? That's the big question.
I'm not sure about that. The first two most definitely will run it as far as they can. So yeah, we're gonna see how everything goes.
Down through Canada corner, side by side once again with Sadro to the inside, but Gaspers is going to have the inside of Bill Mitchell Bend. Is he good on the inside and the outside? He is. Just very difficult for Daniel to try and outpace him and find the grip, but neither of them willing to give up as they're still going to be wheel to wheel. And it looks like up the front stretch, Gasper's going to get the initial launch, but Sadro now gets the slipstream. Ducking to the inside. Daniel Sadro with the speed picked up from the hole punched in the air by David Gaspers. Right on board with the German. And as they break, going to be side by side yet again for a fourth corner in a row. Is this helping McAreevy to catch up at this point finally? Because they've got to be going incredibly slow at this point with this many corners wheel to wheel.
Well, last lap the time was 5/10. He was faster than David Gaspers, but only 2/10 faster than Daniel Sadro, so yes and no, I would say.
The two of them plunge downhill towards turn 5. Sadro elects not to fight it this time, even though he had a good draft. A bunch more drivers are in the pits. Aaron Vagley is one of them. Tony Schuch pits. Michael Dobeck as well. See Ian Wilson also taking his scheduled stop. So far, our highest pitter is Kurt Nunez. He sits in 25th position. And he's got a lot of drivers ahead who have yet to stop. So he's going to be gaining quite a few spots here at this point, considering he was up within the top 10 at one point. That's the car of Kenneth Bately that he is going by. So that 6.5 second lead that Gaspers and Sadro had over McAreevy, it's now down to 5.5 seconds. He's starting to gain a little bit. Walker is going to get another run. Are we going to get another 4-corner in a row side-by-side battle? He's got it down to the inside. No coverage from Gaspers. Instead, he looks for the over-under once again. Oh, almost tries to chop him off, does Sadro. But he gives him a little bit of space to the outside. And that's all that Gaspers needs to pull back ahead and retake the lead.
Yeah, and as you said, Gary McCreevy is starting to finally catch up to these guys. It's just a question of how much is that aided by them fighting and how much it is actually his own pace, because he's starting to get faster and more consistent with his lap times. However, he's also not really able to shake Hugh Haycox, who is getting the draft by. That's also the case in Daniel Sadro as he retakes the lead going into turn 1.
And as he does that, Antonio Reese and Fred Desai pit. So does Samuel Dick. Edward Doherty also in. Zach LeVay. See, I believe they were close to Kurt Nunez. So we'll have to keep an eye on him to see where he comes out in their battle. All those drivers quite close together. Nunez is just coming off of Bill Mitchell Bend up to the final turn right now. Checking to see if anybody is done with their stops in the pit lane. Looks like Reese is out and going, so is Desai. And where is Nunez? He is not anywhere close to them. It looks like they are out well ahead of the number 18. Oof, it is a mess back there on pit exit, though, with lots of cars coming together down into turn 1. See a nice little battle here as Stevie Ray is going to swing on by. This is 21st position that he just nabbed. That was going by Bately, who has yet to stop. Meanwhile, a little bit of a good run from Zach LeVay, also having finished his stop. But Jeff Cantor, who he's passing, is not taking his pits. Looks like he's going to get 1 and 2 if LeVay can get it woed up in time. Yes, he does. Ducks it down to the apex. That's going to keep him in touch with Doherty, which will be critical. He and Stevie Ray could have scampered away if he got stuck behind those two off-strategy cars for too long. 17 minutes left to go on the clock. And our two leaders still well ahead and still close together. We ride on board.
And they're gonna come both into pit lane. What I want to say is that Gary McCreevy, now that they have not fighted for 1 lap, they have immediately opened up the gap by about 1.5 seconds this lap to Gary McCreevy, who's also going into pit lane. Same with you, Haycock. So I'm thinking it's time for everybody to stop.
Yeah, this looks like the end of the line. Greg Stefani gonna pit, but Billy Bob Wright manages to stay out.
That's
Ian Haycock's in.
Interesting and not expected. A number 49 obviously choosing because Lotus 49 best car on the service. He is staying out in his Lotus green car.
I think Ryan Walker is also going to stay out another lap. So very few drivers able to go farther, but those that do will have quite a bit of clear track in front of them. Billy Bob Wright is temporarily our leader. Gaspers is back out with Sadro following him. Pit stop times were relatively close, although Sadro on my screen is showing about a second quicker in his stall. Meantime, though, McAreevy lost a ton of time to Haycox. Their pit stops look pretty even, too.
The much more interesting thing is that Ryan Walker... Oh, never mind. I just thought that Ryan Walker had the strategy of a lifetime, but he actually didn't pit yet.
Yep, he's still waiting to come in. That'll cycle him into fourth temporarily. Both he and Wright and Ian Malone are the only three that have made it to this lap without a pit stop. Meanwhile, our two leaders swapping positions yet again. Second and third place now. Technically going to be our leaders once the pit cycle through. We ride on board with Gaspers following through turn 6. As we watch Sadro in the number 51.
Hugh Haycox, though, he gained about 2.5 seconds on David Gaspers and Daniel Sandro in the pit stop. So, a phenomenal stop from the British driver.
Boy, you can see the trust between Sadro and Gaspers with how close they race against each other. While we were on board with Gaspers there, he was just tucked right underneath the gearbox. There you see it once again. And that can go south so quickly, Steph, if one of them makes a mistake. So that really shows just what they know of each other as drivers, that they know that they can get away with.
Yeah, after racing for so many seasons together, you know what your opponent is going to do at any given time, as David Gaspers now does what Daniel Sandro normally does. Goes to the inside of Canada corner, makes it stick, and he is actually able to defend off that line, and Daniel Sandro not able to do what David Gaspers normally does at this point.
And as those two come around the final corner, Billy Bob Wright is in the pits now. So where is he going to come out with that extra lap that he's managed to go? Hopefully he had enough fuel to get all the way there. Ryan Walker naturally follows him in.
Yeah, I would have been really scared of Billy Bob Wright if he would have been able to drive another lap out here. But no, he is driving in the pit lane, which gives the lead back to, who was it at the line? It was Daniel Sandro at the line, who overtook David Gaspers by 0.005 of a second.
And the last car, Ian Malone, now pitting as well. Where did Billy Bob come back out? He's just getting to the end. He's past the cones and accelerating away. Looks like Kurt Nunez is going to just get by, but he'll be ahead of Ed Doherty. Doherty in the yellow machine you just see behind Billy Bob's dark British green car. Sadro and Gaspers go side by side yet again down into turn 5. Sadro's got the inside. Gaspers looks for the over-under. He gets a decent launch, but not a good enough one unless he's really desperate here. And certainly with 12 minutes left, they're not in that state yet.
British Racing Green, by the way, that color is on Billy Bob's right spec Racer 4, nearly said Lotus 49 there. But yeah, Daniel Sandro most definitely right now on the better position than David Gaspers is. I'm sure that David Gaspers will realize that soon enough and will not overtake into Canada corner.
Now that we've got all the gaps sorted out, Hugh Haycox, who did jump his competitor, unfortunately has been caught back by the draft. And it's about 6 seconds between Gaspers and Haycox. So not sure that those two are really going to be in the mix. Looking through to see who some of our big climbers are. Let's have a bit of a pat on the back for Samuel Dick, going from 20th on the grid up to 9th right now. That is a nice job from him.
Dominic Biro, the Spec 2 driver just behind him. He started in 15th and he's up to 10th place, which means we have right now one Spec 2 driver in the top 10, which probably will not be much longer because Ian Haycox just overtook him for the 10th place. Actually, sorry, he's in 8th
That's
place.
for, 8th place right now. So he's still in it. Ian Haycox, another one that has since moved up from the Spec 2 field in the past and is now racing with the big boys. His son, though, is fighting for a podium up in front of him as we watch these three, and I think it looks like Dominique's going to get a run and try and get that 7th place back while Samuel Dick waits patiently behind them. Is he going to sit and continue to wait, or is he going to use this run that he's got? He's going to continue to wait. He lifts big time.
And behind, though, Edward Doherty is not lifting and does overtake Kurt Nunez, who takes a little bit to the grass. And somehow Edward Doherty doesn't get tipped by that bump from Kurt Nunez. So he is still steadily driving behind Billy Bob Wright.
Watching from Kurt's view, yeah, he goes to turn in, and, well, there's a car in the racing line. So The Californian has to take a trip through the beach, and then he eventually comes back without losing too many more places, but he is in 12th. Should I take that back? It looks like he might be a little slow because Stevie Ray just breezed by him. Hope he didn't get any sort of suspension damage from that. Also, Dominique Bureau was repassed by Ian Haycock, so Ian back up to 7th now. Watching these drivers work their way down into the hurry downs. This is all a battle for 7th position. Ian Haycock's Dominique Bureau, Samuel Dick. Dominique, though, the highest of our Spec 2 racers in that number 208.
Guess what? It's Daniel Sadro's time to pass into Canada corner. Does he make it this time? He's on the inside. Tries to do it, but this time David Gasper is really holding off that outside lane. Gonna have the inside for the next left-hander, and he's able to hold back Daniel Sadro for pretty much a 12th consecutive time.
So onto the front stretch. This is where I'm starting to wonder, is Daniel thinking about the last lap? Let's see how much this draft helps. If he finds himself in that second position out of the final corner, can he get by the line? It's going to be awful tight. We'll see here. Ooh,
only
just
nine
thousandths behind at the line. So he could potentially do it. He could, but it's risky.
I wouldn't say that it's too risky, but you saying he has to how much he's thinking about the last lap? Well, he doesn't have to think much longer as David Gaspers goes past once again through turn 2. Well, we're in the second last lap. We're penultimate lap at this time around, so Daniel Sadler most definitely has to start picking his fight.
I think we might have, do we have 2 or 3 laps to go here? I think we have 3 laps to go. We've got about 7.5 minutes left on the clock. And Sadro still's got a few more times around to try and figure out how he wants to play this one out. But Gasper's also got his mind racing, also trying to decide where he wants to position his car. Up and around turn 6. Behind them, they've got the same battle going on between McAreevy and Haycox. Hugh still following. Then we start to get to single cars. 5th place is Antonio Reese right now. He's been left in no man's land. The 77 is about 5 seconds up to Hugh Haycox, but 4 seconds back to Fred Desai, so no draft to catch up to and no draft to give to anybody. Desai himself also just really not close enough to have any sorts of battles in the number 76. There you see him in that black machine on screen. It takes all the way back to 7th to finally get some more battles happening. That's between Bureau, Ian Haycox, and Samuel Dick that we were watching a little bit earlier. Meanwhile, up at the front, I think for the first time in a while, Sadro's not going to make a move down into Canada corner.
Yes, Daniel Sadler not with a very great run out of the carousel. He was lacking a little bit of end speed there through the carousel, so he wasn't close enough to do anything on David Gaspers. But now they come through the last corner once again. Daniel Sadler, David Gaspers, sorry, a little bit sideways there. So that gives a very early run to Daniel Sadler. That's not what he wants to do on the last lap, as they have 5 minutes and 57 remaining, so I'm not even sure.
Actually, we might be 3 to go this time by, it looks like. Yeah. And that time, Daniel Sadro did lead the lap. That's the sort of move that he needs once they come to the checkered flag. Gaspers is going to come out ahead on the first corner. So we take a look now at the comparison between the leader Gaspers and McAreevy. And it looks like McAreevy wasn't even all that much faster most of the laps, just marginally on lap 11 and lap 13. These two, despite all the fighting, continue to gap everybody else on the field. That's going to give the lead back to Sadro in the black and white machine. Gray and blue belonging to David Gaspers, who we look back at now with the number 1 on his car. Samuel Dick must have had an issue because he's slowing down greatly. And he's falling to the back of his group. Not exactly sure if he missed a shift or what, but he just let about 3 cars by. Wonder if that was also potentially intentional to let them by and then use the slipstream past them. Or maybe he's short on fuel. Could be a case where he's got to do some saving to get to the end.
And David Gaspers is ramping up the aggressiveness. He just passed Daniel Sandra through the kink. Daniel Sandra did aid that pass a little bit as he was also breaking through that to let David Gaspers by. But yeah, David Gaspers most definitely now fighting a little bit more back to gain back that first place coming up to Canada Corner.
As they come up and over Bill Mitchell Bend, they are approaching a little bit of lap traffic too. That's Tom Gradwell and Richard Franco in front of them. And that could actually aid Gaspers a little bit if he catches lap traffic on the last lap, as Billy Bob Wright's had an issue, and I think he's taken a tow. Must have been a big issue then. We'll go to that replay in a second as we continue to watch the fight up at the lead. Sadro with the inside.
Over the last few laps, Daniel Sadro has consistently gotten a better run out of the last turn than David Gaspers, always aiding him to the first place over the start-finish line. So Daniel Sadro most definitely starting to really get down to where he needs to accelerate out of the last turn to be able to beat David Gaspers.
The outsides of corners, though, as we watch the replay of Billy Bob here through the kink, it seems like Gaspers is much better about being able to keep his foot down. We're going to see from... Here we go. Toward Billy Bob Wright. Check it one more time here. I think he clips the grass and just loses a little bit of grip. They did make the grass more slippery. Yeah, that's exactly it there. In this last build in iRacing. So I've noticed a few drivers lose it when we haven't seen it in the past.
Yeah, it touches the grass and goes right into the scene of the accident there. Billy Bob Wright, that British green, getting a little bit of one with the wall there. Not what you want to see. Hate to see it. But yeah, that's one good race for Billy Bob Wright. Pretty much crumpled to pieces.
And did we lose Samuel Dick too? Did Samuel Dick have, did he run out of fuel potentially here? Because he went to pit lane and then took a tow. We'll try and investigate that a little bit later, but we've jumped back up to our leaders. Up in front of them now, it's Richard Franco who they are trying to go by, but they're going to get the white flag this time by. Gasper is starting to pull a little bit of a gap on Sadro here. In fact, this is the farthest apart we've seen them for many laps now. Pulling off to the side, Franco's just going to take it into the dirt to let them through. All right, as they come around up to the final corner. Last few times, it's worked well in favor of Sadro. Can he get another run? He's a little bit farther back than the previous ones. This doesn't look like this is going to be enough. He's really going to have to get tucked under by the time they get to that spot next lap. Across the line, certainly not close enough. A full car length and a half behind, but Sadro lifts this time. This looks like he wants to be back in second place, Steph.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Daniel Sadro does try to pass David Gaspers one more time. Maybe they do it and then just hopes that he can keep him behind in a Canada corner. But yeah, if I would be in Sadro's shoes right now, I would stick behind and bank on getting the better run out of the last turn.
So we'll Looks like Dominique Bureau didn't have enough fuel as he's come into pit lane. So a few drivers cutting it a little too tight here at this incredibly thirsty track. As we see him working towards his stall, we jump back to the battle for the lead where Sadro once again elects not to go on the attack. Out of turn 5. He's got to stay right here. He can't let himself get too far away. Through turn 6 now. Ooh, and you can see the strength in the technical portions of David Gaspers. The gap up to 0.6 of a second. That Bureau event coming into the pits is actually going to give the Spec 2 lead to Aaron Vagley now. So something we'll have to watch out for once they get to the checkered flag if Aaron himself filled it up enough and is able to claim that victory. As they come out of the carousel, David Gaspers has pulled away to about half a second. Sadro is starting to lose touch. We ride on board with him to see if he can regain this ground. It's up to 0.4 of a second. He's pulling him in. It's got to be a little bit more than that. He's got to be that much closer coming around the final corner. As they approach Canada Corner, he's not close enough to attack. Sadro, though, tucks up behind, about a car length back from David Gaspers. It's been a battle between these two for the entire race, for the lead. Up and over Bill Mitchell Bend. Sadro is there. If he can get the launch off the corner, and if Gaspers is poor off of this final turn, then the race is his. What is it going to be? They both get off decently, but this looks very good for Sadro. Down to the inside, trying to protect it. Gaspers is desperately doing anything he can to deny the draft. Is it going to be enough? Sadro pulls up alongside. It's going to be tight as they come to the line. Who's it going to be? It's Gaspers. 11 hundredths of a second. Back behind them, Jerry McAreevy well ahead of Hugh Haycox in the end. Hugh Haycox looks like he maybe was a little shy on fuel. Stevie Ray. Oh, is Stevie Ray running out? Oh, no. Stevie Ray is out of it as Michael Shaw and Zach LeVay come close to the line. Actually, they're close to Ian Haycox. Ian Haycox might not make it to the line in time. He's out of fuel. Wow. Oh, and is Vagley slowing? Vagley is slowing. Dominique Bureau is coming up on him. And is it going to be... No, it's Tony Schuch. Tony Schuch is our winner in the Spec 2 race. Up to 13th with many cars cutting it way too tight on the fuel. Stevie Ray barely inches across the line.
Oh, and Aaron Vagley wasn't... He wasn't out of fuel. He just spun it out of the last turn, as we're going to see now. Just too fast through that turn, and yeah, that's what does the trick to you.
He's got to be kicking himself because he just handed it over there in that final corner. Let's watch the replay of that finish for the lead, though. Incredible stuff between our leaders.
Yeah, Daniel Sadro, he was close enough coming out of the Bill Mitchell Bend, but to be honest, the run of that Gaspers was decent enough out of the last turn to be able to defend that lead just over the start finish line. There we're going to see how close that really was between the two.
There's about half a foot between the nose of Gaspers and the nose of Sadro.
Yeah, depending on your foot size, that's half a foot.
But that's going to take us to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Road America. We just watched the first round of the season here in the Weekend Warriors. David Gaspers came away with the win. He was challenged the whole way. Look at the gap between himself and Sadro at the line. Daniel just about snuck it away from him, but some clever moves from David kept him ahead in the end. Jerry McAreevy rounded out your podium, with fourth place going to Hugh Haycox. Great start for Hugh on this one. Antonio Reese took fifth place with Fred Desai behind him in sixth position. How about Edward Doherty? 22nd in qualifying, but seventh in the race. That's a great climb. Kurt Nunez was eighth, and Zach LeVay in ninth. Michael Shaw rounded out your top 10.
Ian Haycox starting your back half of the top 20 with 11th place. Larry McLeod in 12th place. Tony Shook, your first place driver in the Spec 2 class, 13th place went to him. Michael Dobeck 14th. Aaron Fuggerly second place in the Spec 2 class after a spin. He sadly dropped to that position in 15th. Stevie Ray, after running out of fuel, he took home 16th place. Francesco Bernardo 17th went to him. Dominic Bureau 18th. Sean Fleming 19th. And J. William Smith in 20th.
21st goes to Ryan Walker, with Emil Orza finishing in 22nd. How about Kenneth Bately? 42nd on the grid. He finished 23rd, so I'd say he did a fair job there. Jeff Cantor was 24th, and Yuri Cox in the 25th position. Ramon Regalado was in 26th, with Kellen Rhodes in 27th. Matt Solbloom, 48th to 28th for him. Jeff Jacobson finished 29th. 30th went to Tim Van Dormelen. Then you've got the last few drivers on the lead lap: Paul Jackson, Bob Kern, Wayne Palmer. All the ones that you see from here on our graphics were a lap down or more, with the last maybe half dozen or so a DNF today. But that takes us to our interviews, starting with our winner, David Gaspers, and pole sitter as well. David, that was an intense race. When it first started, we thought that maybe you and Daniel were kind of working together, but then we saw you start to go side by side through some corners, and we kind of realized that there was certainly no love lost between you.
Yeah, we didn't really plan anything. I think after lap 2 or 3, I asked him what lap times Jerry was doing, and it wasn't that fast compared to what we would do if we fight. I think we only lost 3 times, even though we were going side by side a lot. So we didn't really work together after that. Just if he was clear of me, I stayed back, and if not, I fought him.
As it started to come towards the end of the race, we were noticing that Daniel looked like he was intentionally trying to come out of the final corner in last. Did you notice that? It seem to you that he was trying to kind of size you up for the last lap run to the line?
No, I just tried to overtake him before that every time, so that's why I was in front. But I'm really bad at the last corner. I mess it up quite often, several times in in this race. Yeah, I was a bit nervous before the last lap.
It looked like it was awful close. It looked like you tried to weave to break the draft. We had some debate here in the booth on whether or not that was a factor in you taking the win. Do you think it helped you get that, what was it, 12 100ths to beat him by?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, he would have driven by me.
Well, clever stuff then. Awesome job on the win. You gave us a thrill, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more this season.
Yeah, thank you.
As David Gaspers, our winner here today. Up next, Steph is going to be talking to Daniel Sadro.
Yeah, Daniel, same question to you. We thought that you guys were working together and then you suddenly started to fight. So you both realized that Gary McReevy behind you wasn't fast enough to really keep up even when you were fighting. But then we also saw you started to do some strategy with the last turn. Talk us through what you thought there.
Well, after we kind of overheard some of the radio chatter, there was an accident in turn 5 on the first lap, and after that, both David and I were outside of draft range of third place. So I kind of told me where the situation was going, and we were I think the first couple laps after it, we were kind of just doing just drafting past each other, seeing what we were doing, and then we just kind of both realized that there was a pretty good gap going, and then we started having a lot more fun.
Fun you were having, most definitely. At least it looked like that. Then the pit stops came around, and you started to, as mentioned, to have a little bit of a strategy going for that last turn, while David Gaspers always messed that one up a little bit. You seem to start getting quite a good run out of there every single time.
Yeah, we both realized that I was much better out of that last turn than he was, and I was just trying a number of different things, just kind of getting a feel for how he was and how I was, and if there was a slight, if I slowed down an extra mile an hour or two, I was really aiming for trying to figure out the best way to do it, because I figured he was not going to let me lead going into that last turn. So it was just a whole lot of fun, and congratulations to him, obviously. By the way, something, if you can talk to your graphics department, next time we run Road America, you need a little counter for how many times the lead changes.
Yeah, that would be in the case of Amjad there, so we might have to talk about that. Either way, Daniel, last question before I let you go. How are you looking forward to a much different racetrack of Montreal?
Oh yeah, Montreal's next. I absolutely love that circuit. It's one of my best, and absolutely looking forward to racing there.
Great, I expect no less than a win from you.
Oh, well, expect to be disappointed.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
You too, Daniel Sandro. Second place, but the chokes are most definitely not lost on him. Joe Peak now talking to Antonio Reese.
Yeah, fifth place finisher here today. Antonio, you were one of the ones that seemed to get a little bit spread apart by the wreck at the start. You lost the front group. So what do you do from there in the race, knowing that this is such a draft track?
Oh, I really don't know. I just was keep going. Many accidents on the way. I was lucky could go through, but it was a very fun race, and I really enjoyed it.
How close were you on fuel? Because we saw a lot of drivers sputter to the line, and some even not even make it to the line.
Oh, I used the SOD program, so he just make the job. I don't know. I think he just put 2 clicks of fuel or whatever.
That always makes life a little bit easier, not having to stress about that part while driving.
Sure.
Well, we were asking Daniel Sadro about his thoughts on Montreal. That's a very tight and punishing circuit. Do you think you could do better than fifth? Maybe get on the podium there, or do you usually not fare well at that street course?
Oh, it's a very technical track, so I hope I can have a better run than here. I don't know if I finish wherever I finish. I will be happy with wherever position, but it's more technical, so I enjoy more without drafting. That's the point for me.
I like that laissez-faire attitude about the finishing position. But congratulations on a top 5, and hopefully we will get to talk to you next week.
Yeah, nice to talk to you guys. Thank you.
Antonio Reese, our fifth place finisher, starting from 8th on the grid. So a nice 3 positions up for him. But that's going to close things out. So we want to give a big thank you to our sponsor once again, SimStickers. They are at simstickers.co.uk. And if you want to buy something from there, use the promo code GSRC10 and you'll get 10% off your order this entire season. Also, thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. All you got to do is subscribe to that channel to catch their action every week here for the Weekend Warriors, but also a thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde to provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Also, thanks to the team, Steph, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is at GSRC_Graham. Head on over to GSRC's YouTube channel and subscribe, and you'll be entered automatically into a giveaway. 2 people will win their choice of items from our merchandise store, which is linked in the YouTube description below. The next race, as we mentioned, we're heading up to Canada, just across the border here from Wisconsin. They'll be at Montreal Sunday, December 22nd at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.